Welcome to today's masterclass. My name is Sandra Ellery, and I will be your host today. For those of you who are unfamiliar with CSIA, we are a global nonprofit trade association with over 500 member companies in 35 countries. To highlight just a few of CSIA many member benefits, the CSIA Best Practices Manual Guide controls system integration companies to set up and running of solid companies. These best practices reflect the knowledge gained by system integrators over the years and shared freely. Any system integrator company will benefit from deploying the best practices, but gaining the CSIA certification is a confirmation by a third party that you have deployed them correctly. Maintaining a valid certification ensures that your company stays on the path of continuous improvement. For partner members, CSIA offers an ecosystem to grow their system integrator programs, understand their company's pain points, monitor industry trends, and shares their thought leadership. A trusted resource of qualified integrator and suppliers, the CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange helps system integrators, industry supplier, and manufacturers and process companies connect and do business. That makes the exchange a first-stop shop where end users can compare integrators, determine which products to use, and have questions answered by a specialist in the field. For system integrators, it provides a platform to increase your digital presence, support your content and SEO marketing efforts, position your company and C-suite as thought leaders, showcase your expertise, and nurture prospects by providing a trusted, credible source for information about your company and its products. Finally, a reminder that in 2021, you will have increased access to knowledge sharing, community building, and networking throughout the year when you join or renew your CSIA membership. CSIA is committed to delivering extremely relevant content to system integrators while providing partner access to a highly engaged audience. To that end, CSIA will deliver weekly virtual events on a broad range of topics and experiences, all of which are open to sponsorship. For more information about CSIA, membership, virtual events, and sponsorship and advertising opportunities, contact us at info@staff.controlsys.org. One last thing before we get started. Please use the chat feature to talk amongst yourself, but use the Q&A feature to submit your question. That helps us to just stay organized. At this time, I would like to introduce the moderator for today's presentation, Lisa Richter.
Thanks, Sandra. I think you have one more slide. There you go. Thank you. Hi, guys. I'm Lisa Richter. I'm CSIA's Industry Director. I'm about to introduce the panelists, but we're going to try an experiment today. If you have your smartphone handy, grab it and use the camera on your smartphone to click on each person's QR code here as I'm introducing them. That starts the networking right now. If you're rocking that old school clamshell or you just don't feel like doing it, that's no problem. Sandra's also going to copy links to the panelists' LinkedIn profiles in the chat. So you'll get that after the event after we're done, we're recording the event, we'll send you a recording and we'll send you a copy of the chat so you'll get all the contact information. So let's get started. Jake, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, my name is Jake Hall, and I'm a business development manager for Fine Zelstra, who is a systems integrator, working for a lot of companies. That's my day job. And by night, I'm the manufacturing millennial. So I like to highlight content around the automation and manufacturing industry to really just get people excited about all the exciting things that are happening and to create conversation to really encourage the upcoming workforce to look at manufacturing as a career.
Awesome. Thank you. Sandra, will you please put the slide up that has the QR codes? I'm sure people didn't have a chance to get those snapped. Okay. Next, Aaron, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Aaron Pfeiffer. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Convergence Controls and Engineering out of Denver. My perspective here today is really from the perspective as a business owner or a representative. Why does the organization actually care about LinkedIn and marketing and the value it generates for the business?
Thank you. Christine.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, I'm Christine McQuilkin. I'm a digital marketing manager at Rivergate Marketing. We specialize in the control system industry and are a marketing partner for several CSIA members. Today, I'm going to talk about how to use LinkedIn to market your company.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jeff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Winter, and I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives at Grand Tech. An easy way to describe my roles, I sit between traditional sales and traditional marketing, helping to productize our company's offering into repeatable services and grow business in focused areas. But related to LinkedIn, I've been using it as an integral part of my job for about 8 years now, mostly having success networking and deepening relationships, which is also known as social selling.
Thank you. All right, so let's start with some good stories. And by good stories, I mean some examples of some successes that you've had on LinkedIn. Aaron, you want to tell us a good story?
Sure. Yeah, we, over here at Convergence, we use LinkedIn pretty regularly to market other partners and offering solutions that we offer. One such case that turns into immediate business, return on investment is a client of ours, a partner of ours that we've worked with. I talk to them on a monthly basis and we talk about offerings, opportunities, but one day they saw a LinkedIn post that actually talked about one of the partners that we represent and that we work with regularly. And that immediately turned into an order and a quote request in an urgent matter. They had no idea that we rep those guys. And so to be able to rep them as well as turn that directly into a sale, I mean, it was huge for us.
Thanks. Christine, you're up.
At Rivergate Marketing, we have the privilege of working with a variety of system integrators. And one time we shared a press release for one of our integrator clients. It was about opening an office in another state. As usual, we shared links to the press release on social media, including LinkedIn, talking about the new office. And one of the integrator's former clients saw it on LinkedIn and immediately reached out. They were thrilled that this integrator had a new office in this new geographic area. They said they had a project coming up. Our integrator actually got the project. It was the first customer for the new office, and it kept them viable. So it was a great success.
Yeah, nice. Jeff, tell us a good story.
So my favorite LinkedIn success is related to a series of events that my company put together a few years ago. We called them Vineyard Events, and the goal was to pick an intimate place where top-level leaders, we're talking directors, vice presidents, would be able to come together to share stories, collaborate, and learn from each other on very specific topics that we chose. And for our place, we picked a vineyard because who doesn't like wine? So this actually took a lot of coordination and planning to get people who didn't know us, we didn't know them, to attend an all-day event. And on top of that, get them to come to us, because remember, we didn't go to them. So the tool that pulled this whole thing together was LinkedIn. And it wasn't just helpful, it was actually critical, it was essential. We ended up posting 4 of these events in total. And for the first one, we had 24 different director and vice president level people attend from 14 different Fortune 500 companies coming from 6 different states. So that's right, people drove hours and some even flew to attend this. And of those 24 people, 20 of them were invited through LinkedIn. So how did I do this? Well, it started by selecting the first 2 anchor people who their attendance was basically used to leverage and attract other people. And these 2 people were very specifically chosen. We picked people that we knew liked to be seen in the industry as leaders amongst their peers, which means I played into their vanity a little bit, but also they were influential and active on LinkedIn. So these 2 anchor peoples, I like to call them, were so critical that we actually picked the date of our event around them. So once I had them secured, now I could utilize their vast networks and reach out to their peers and other companies and say, hey, your friend so-and-so is attending and they're going to be talking about this. You should attend and hear from them. And of course, I got permission from my anchor people to do this. But by the 24th person I got to attend, who remember, I've never spoken to in my life before, I was able to say, hey, 23 of your peers and a dozen people that you know, and I would rattle their names off, are attending this event and they're going to be speaking. You should too. And so the more people I got, the more others wanted to attend. So in short, that's how I got people to pay for themselves to fly to an event that we hosted, basically all through LinkedIn. There was no public announcement, no marketing, just very strategic invites referencing connections.
Nice. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, that was fantastic, Jeff. For me, I think some of the really success stuff that happens on LinkedIn is when you get to share stories about your community and your engagement, right? Going beyond what just a company can solve for an industry solution is great. But when you talk about how your engagement is in the community, how when you're working with, Aaron, you mentioned working with your partners and customers and how all that stuff ties together, I think there's some great success with that. With me, with the personal brand that I'm developing and working with Fine Zelstra, this constant engagement in 9 months has allowed me to have like over 4.5 million views. And with those connections, it allows us to create new opportunities and new conversations that I really view as a soft touch. With LinkedIn, I think there's too much selling that happens on LinkedIn and not enough just solving and talking about industry problems. And by using LinkedIn as an area just to share what's happening in the industry, we drive a lot of success and new opportunity and discussions around what we can do that they might not have been aware of. This is a solution that we solve from past experience.
All right, so now it's time for the audience to take a pop quiz. Sandra, can you put up the quiz, please? So if you had to guess, how many active users does LinkedIn have? Is the answer 315 million, 544 million, or 722 million? Jeff, while the people are answering that question, you came across a statistic recently that you found kind of interesting. You want to share that, please?
Yeah, this is actually a statistic from 2021 by a guy named Josh Gallant at the foundation. He posts the top 50 statistics, and this one caught my attention, which was basically that about 45% of LinkedIn article readers are considered upper level employees with the title of manager, director, vice president, or the C-suite. And that caught my attention.
Yeah, for sure. I can't see, Sandra, if people have participated in the poll or not, but if we have some results, go ahead and share them. So the answer is LinkedIn has 722 million users, and that's in more than 200 countries. You can go ahead and take down the poll. Thank you. So these success stories, these numbers of users seem to indicate, yeah, companies should have a presence on LinkedIn. If that's the case, Christine, why?
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, well, you're definitely missing out on an opportunity if you're not on LinkedIn. You can amplify your content, you can gain exposure. LinkedIn's very important for your marketing efforts. Digital marketing is about creating content to demonstrate your expertise, such as blogs, white papers, ebooks, videos, case studies, and more. Sharing posts on LinkedIn from your company page will show that your company's alive and well, and it's going to drive good quality traffic to your website. Your customers, your partners, your suppliers, your employees, and even your future employees are on LinkedIn, and you need to be there too.
Aaron, as a system integrator in particular, why should an SI have a company page?
Well, for those of you that can remember that far back, remember back when web pages for your company were totally irrelevant and seemed, why would I ever have a web page for my company? Now, today, you can't have a serious business, I should say, without having a web page, right? That's part of your presence. Well, LinkedIn is now becoming that as well, too. If you're a serious business, you're expected to have a LinkedIn page. You need to have that avenue for people to come find you, do some research. It also gives them a little bit of a glimpse of what you're all about. Jake had a good point. Are you a pushy salesman and all you're doing is pushing product, or are you adding content and value and trying to improve on the general atmosphere of all other integrators, of all other companies? Are you trying to educate your public? It's also a great way for people that are interested to work for you, for them to do their research, right? We all, have heard, if you're going to go apply for a job, do some research on the company. Well, LinkedIn makes that easy. And then it also shows you what those companies are, interested in, what's important to them, what are their values, do they promote their people and their events and projects that they're working on. None of us buy anything nowadays without doing that type of research on a company. So make it easy for people to do that research and to regularly see what type of quality work you're doing, as well as who you're partnered with and educational content, and just make it a better atmosphere out there. That positivity really drives more business. You know, the other piece to it is it's free, right? I mean, you can pay, you can do the sponsored ads, but shoot, you look at someone like Jake Hall and the manufacturing millennial, he's got thousands of people looking at the content that he's putting out there on a regular basis. That brand recognition, that's huge for your business.
Okay, so obviously we're convinced that these company pages are important. Christine, what are your tips for creating a company profile and then managing it?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Just before I get started on this, I want to say that we've created a download, and with the details I'm going to cover, and I'll paste a link to it in the chat so you'll have the information. So getting started, you know, go to that basic overview page and make sure all that information is completed. Make sure that your description is filled out. You know, you've got your website in there, industry, size, all of your locations, even the new one. Add a button as a call to action. You can use this to drive traffic to your company's website. We've talked a little bit about jobs and recruiting. You can put job postings on LinkedIn to help with your recruiting efforts. We all know that's really tough these days. You can also add an event to LinkedIn. It makes it really easy to host and promote an in-person or an online event and manage registrations. You can create a showcase page. Say you have a special product offering, a service, or an affiliated brand. So that's under the umbrella of your company page. And once you've got all this information up there, you have to keep it up to date. So set yourself a calendar reminder to review your page regularly, say once a quarter at least, more often if things are changing quickly in your environment. Even more important than that is putting out company posts regularly. Set a minimum goal of once a week. You know, if your company is creating marketing content, you should be promoting that on social media, especially on LinkedIn, to amplify its exposure. Make it easy for yourself. Sign up for a social media scheduling tool and do it in bulk. Buffer has a free version you can try if you're just starting out. Rivergate Marketing uses HubSpot for our clients. It has a lot of tools to help you tie your marketing efforts to actual leads and sales.
What kind of metrics should companies pay attention to, Christine?
Yeah, so you're going to want to know what's successful or not. I just want to start out by saying you're not going to get the same analytics on LinkedIn as you get on other networks. So create a spreadsheet, keep track of it there. LinkedIn's analytics don't go back very far. You're going to want to keep track of the number of followers. You know, update this at the beginning of every month. How many new followers did you get this month? Who are they? Are they potential clients? Are they students? Are they vendors? Are they competitors? You know, you keep an eye on that. You can drill down and see that information. Some people keep track of the number of visitors. This shows you how many page views you've had over the last month. There's a lot of detailed information on updates. I'm just going to talk about a few. You can really drill down if you wanted to know a lot of detail there. Impressions, that means how many sets of eyes saw your post in their news feed. We think that keeping track of clicks is very important. How many people clicked on your post and went through, you know, to the destination, hopefully your website, you know, if there was a link, and you should always have a link, always include a link in your posts. Shares, we keep track of that. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then finally, engagement rate. This aggregates the likes, the clicks, the shares, and then divides it by the number of impressions so you can see which posts were the most popular overall. So keeping track of this information is going to help you fine-tune your process and potentially help you show some ROI for your efforts.
Okay, it's a pop quiz time again, folks. Sandra, would you please go ahead and put up the next question, which is, what percentage of a company's engagement comes from employees on LinkedIn? Is it 10%, 30%, 60%? Christine, while people are answering this poll, why do you think it's important for employees to interact with the company page and posts?
It's very important for a number of reasons, especially for employees to share those company posts. First of all, the LinkedIn algorithm, it likes people more than it likes companies. You know, it promotes people's posts above companies' posts. It's also helpful for your employees to have content ready-made to share so they can increase their exposure and grow their network as well. just sidestepping a little bit here, employees should be connected to your company page. And how you can tell if they're properly connected is if your logo shows up in their experience section. That's one way. Also, when they're properly connected to your company page, they show up in a list of employees. You know, the company basic overview page has a list of company employees. So you want your people to show up there. So make sure they're properly connected. So when asked what's the most powerful force in the universe, Albert Einstein replied, compound interest. So how does this relate to LinkedIn? Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say your company has 100 followers. So for your post, you could have 100 impressions for maximum. So your company has 50 employees who are sharing this post now, and they have an average of, say, 500 connections, so 25,000 impressions maximum. But if their connections like, comment, and share on that post, this number just keeps growing exponentially. Your future projects could come from anywhere. So keeping your company top of mind might be as simple as having your employees share company posts on LinkedIn.
So I didn't see, did we share the results of the poll? There we go. Thank you very much. So if you are keeping score, the answer is 30%. 30% of employees engage with their company's content. This actually seems a little low to me. Has anyone had success getting their employees engaged? Aaron, have you seen it, have a success story on that?
Yeah, we at Convergence, we try to get our employees to engage, especially on larger announcements. Recently we announced a new offering around measurement solutions, and how do you get that message out there? Exactly to Christine's point, if we can have more people engage with it, then it goes out to their contacts, if their contacts like it. And that one, relatively speaking, went viral for us because we put that post out there. We asked our people to be tagged or to interact with it. But one expert hack you can do on the back end of that too, if you're doing a post and you want to address or congratulate some of the people in your organization, if you tag them, then automatically it will start going out to their peers and everything. And if they like it, that gives it even more weight as well too. So you can get your employees engaged by asking for them to get engaged, or just putting out really good content always helps as well too. Some real good key ways to do that, new product announcements. In our case, we always try to do a new post for any new employee that we bring on board, make sure they feel welcome, and encourage everyone to make sure that they share that knowledge and that wealth, and make sure people feel welcome to the company, and it puts it out there publicly.
Christine?
Great example, Aaron. Yeah. Different companies take different approaches. And my example is we have a client who has intentionally built a company culture and where the employees feel like they're a very strong part of the success. Employees, they want to share the company post because they're proud. And this client does a great job of explaining the corporate goals and setting a good example from the management level. And the result is that their LinkedIn shares hover around 40 per month, which drives a lot of impressions and clicks. And also, they've been able to grow their followers by 40% in 2 years through this strategy.
All right, so speaking of employees, should a company groom and leverage subject matter experts as part of his content and social media strategy? Jake, you want to address this one, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes to a lot of things. One, just to quickly bounce back, Aaron, you made a great point. I wanted to add on to that when it comes to content and generation. And Christine, you hit on within LinkedIn, and this is a really interesting fact, 97% of the people on LinkedIn look at content. They don't really watch it or engage it. They may like or give a reaction to it, but that leaves only really 3% of the people on LinkedIn the ability who are actually creating content. So if your companies are not out there already creating content and having discussions, and not necessarily even pushing selling, but just engagement in industry, topics, it really bridges a gap and creates a lot of opportunity that no one else is really doing in the industry. And I think that's the power of where LinkedIn's at right now. When it comes to subject matter experts, Lisa, I think it really ties directly into that. When you look at subject matter experts in the industry, they might not need to be someone who is super comfortable getting in front of a camera all the time and recording videos and having conversations or hopping on webinars. It could be someone who's extremely knowledgeable within a specific industry. It could be recycling or welding or vision systems or ignition or whatever type of product is out there, and just giving facts or having high-level discussions or a blog post or something that's happening in the industry. If they're comfortable with that and they're knowledgeable in the area, leverage that knowledge to not necessarily just sell what you're trying to do as a company or as a systems integrator, but share, hey, I'm knowledgeable in that industry. So when the time comes to have a discussion, or when they're looking at a project, they know that you're very involved with the industry. And I think it goes back to a lot of with like soft touches. What I do with the manufacturer millennial is, yeah, we do a lot in automation and robotics and controls and upgrades, but I never press that. What I like to do and what I want to push subject matter experts to do is engage in your industry so people know who you are. So when that time comes, they view you as an expert or a person who knows a lot about that, who can then come to you for future conversations saying, all right, now where do I start when we're ready to pull the trigger?
Jeff, did you have something to add to this topic?
Sure, and it would support just what Jake says. I mean, the simple answer to your question, should a company groom and leverage subject matter experts? Absolutely, yes. The simple answer is yes. And especially as system integrators, we have to remember that our product is our people, which means a big part of our branding should be about those people, their knowledge, their skills, their experience, their accomplishments. We need to highlight them and show the world. Statistics on LinkedIn show that buyers in the B2B industry, the business to business industry, are influenced by the who more than the what or the how. And this kind of complements Christine on the LinkedIn algorithm as well. So don't just focus on highlighting what you do, highlight who you are.
All right, so let's talk about branding. Aaron, what impact does LinkedIn marketing have on company branding?
You know, I mean, LinkedIn in particular, there's different ways to use it, but let's take a step back and what is branding in the first place for some context. If I say the term Nike, everyone on the line here, you just all of a sudden had an image of a swoosh go through your mind. You know who I'm talking about, you know it's a quality product, and you know, statistically speaking, you know, I'm not entirely sure how many people we have on here today, but statistically speaking, one of the attendees today is now 90% more likely to buy, you know, a Nike product in the next 90 days because of that brand awareness and they know the name. So branding in LinkedIn for you, you know, it makes your sales cycle easier. When you're out there posting content like we've talked about and the partnerships, and to Jake and your point about who your partners are and what type of products that you're putting out there, that just gives people more positive affinity for your company. In the long term, as a company and as an organization, whether you're the owner of your business or it's an ESOP or you have shares in it, what's the value of just the brand, right? So think of the value of Nike. It's not just the warehouses, it's not just the shoes that they have, you know, in production right now, but just that name has value. It has weight. It has, you know, affinity for people and a draw to it. So when you're marketing on LinkedIn, keep that in mind, right? You're coming from a positive position, you're coming from good partnerships, you're putting out good products, and that gives everybody a very positive take on you and your business, which makes sales cycle easier, it makes it quicker, makes the, you know, allows people to do more research on you, but it also helps with recruitment. If you want to attract the best talent, you want to be the best, you want to look the best, you want people to be a part of your organization. And LinkedIn is just a very low cost way of making sure you get that message out there.
Okay, so as an extension of that then, what about personal branding? What is it and why is it important? Jake?
Yeah, I think it's a great, you know, lead up. When personal branding comes, I think it goes to authenticity of the engagement you're having with the people who are following you're connected with. People don't buy from companies. I think, Jeff, you said that, right? People don't buy from companies. They buy from people. They buy from the relationships that they have. No company is going to buy a $1 million project because they're working with company XYZ. They're working it because of the people that they entrust to get the project done and that they're knowledgeable on the system or the project that they're working on. So personal branding is that exact same thing. I think it speaks to a level of authenticity when people can know who you are and what you're passionate about and the areas of expertise that you bring as a subject matter expert in the industry. And I think every company needs to focus once again on your employees and empowering them to go out and create content, to go out there and create engagement, to go out there and really share your community, right? There's a personal brand as an individual, but I think there's almost a brand, like we talked about last one, of a company. when I look at some of the highest engaged posts on Fine Zelstra on their LinkedIn and their blog post, it's not about this multi-million-dollar installation that we did. It's about a community event that we were a part of. You know, and I think people speak to that where you're pushing a community and a culture, not a company. And people want to work with that community. People want to work with that culture. And when you're branding that, you're going to get a lot more engagement and a lot more return, because what you're doing is you're creating a friendship, you're creating a relationship. People buy from relationships. They don't buy, like I said, from companies.
So Jeff, from a business development kind of standpoint, what tips can you give folks in terms of making sure their personal brand is on point?
Sure, and this would kind of take the flip side of what Jake talked about. If you don't want to be a superstar like him, but still want to use LinkedIn effectively, there's really two things that I would talk about here. The first is professionalize your profile. Put in the time to make it look good. Get a professional headshot. Add a nice background photo. This isn't Facebook. You want a different image amongst your peers, your clients versus your friends. And highlight the things that you have in your job, your career, your work-related stuff that you do, anything extracurricular activities that you want to be known for amongst your clients, your peers, and to the world. According to Rain Group, 82% of buyers look up providers on LinkedIn before they ever respond to any reach out efforts. So think about that. And what do you want them to see when they look you up? So try to avoid using LinkedIn as just a duplication of your resume. Tell a story. Use it to showcase how you want to see them. This means you may change it frequently depending on your role, your current role, and your responsibilities. And this is especially true for salespeople or people in business development. You can go one direction, highlight your sales success, how you're awesome at hitting targets, or you can go another route and highlight how you're an awesome problem solver for your clients. Which do you want? And this approach applies to every role that's out there. And the second is much shorter. Be a brand advocate on LinkedIn. And a brand advocate is for your company and your other subject matter experts. Brand advocate just means like, comment, share, engage with your company and those thought leaders or subject matter experts, especially what they post. Show your support for what they're doing, and your network will see it.
All right, so changing topics a little bit, let's talk about connecting and networking, because they're different, right? You can have a strategy to amass followers, but is that really enough to make the investment in LinkedIn? So Jeff, what are your thoughts on this topic from a business development standpoint?
That's a great question, Lisa. And you're right. In my mind, there is kind of a difference between like connecting, which just means like clicking the connect button, and truly networking, building up your group of contacts that you work with, that you relate to, or that you leverage when you need to. I like to divide my networking into two groups, expanding and deepening. And I have different strategies for both. For expanding, it's all about connecting with new people, specifically looking for key people in the industry. This could be anyone like an influencer or a partner. It could be existing clients or potential future customers. This isn't just a mass add everyone as a friend ploy. This is targeting specific people for specific reasons. And when you connect to them, you send them a personalized note as to why you're reaching out. And I highly suggest you find a connection point, a point of commonality. And from my experience, educational commonalities, connections, they're useless. Saying you went to the same school, someone else doesn't really do anything. Target specific accomplishments, that's good. Target posts that they've made, even better. And honestly, the ones that I've had the most success with are industry associations and shared connections, the people that they know. So reference that specific point or that person in your message. So the first is expanding your network, and the other is deepening relationships. This applies to people you already know or people you just meet. Every time I meet someone, either virtually or one day again, hopefully in person, I LinkedIn connect with them. And over time, I continue to deepen the relationship by having LinkedIn touch points on a regular basis, whether a regular basis is once a month or even just once a year. I send them an article and explain why I think it's related to them, or I'll ping them and just ask them a question or ask for feedback on something. The point is I engage with them on LinkedIn. Now here's the big tip. Keep it separate from your direct company work or projects. Think of this as a on-the-side communication. I save my work stuff from my phone calls and my emails. LinkedIn's about that added little personal touch outside of projects. Make the touch points about them as a person, not their company, not their role or their project.
Aaron, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's interesting listening to Jeff talk about this because, I'll highlight, from an organization perspective, investing in LinkedIn from a business development standpoint, you're empowering that sales team, right? So, Jeff talking about your business development individual, help them have content to put out there and to share and to repost. So if the company is generating that, then it empowers your sales team. It makes them more effective. It allows them to share with each other and reshare each other's posts and things along those lines, which, as we've talked about, that expands and broadens your views, your posts, your branding, your awareness, and everything. So Jeff, that's all really great points. And Jake, I also wrote down a note to your point. It is fascinating, isn't it? Only 3% of people on average that look at your posts are actually going to interact or like or engage. And I can quantify that. I can pretty much guarantee that's the truth, because I have had multiple sales engagements or just lunches or talks with friends, and they'll make a comment about, wow, you guys are hiring like crazy all the time. You guys must be in such a great position. And in my head, I'm thinking, I look at those analytics. I know for a fact you didn't like, comment, or share or re-engage that, but you definitely saw the post, because that's the only way you would have learned that information, right? So, yes, to Jake's point, don't get too wrapped up in the analytics. Christine, it is a great tool. You should be trying to grow that out, but don't get disheartened if you only have 3 likes, because it still probably got seen, over 300 times at least, right? So that's huge. The other thing I'll say is, from a business development standpoint, again, I'm going to highlight this. It's a really good way to engage with your other partners. And, for example, I'll name drop CSIA. Fantastic organization, because every time I have a relevant post, if I can tag CSIA, I know for a fact those guys are going to like, reshare, comment, post. Thank you, Lisa. And so that's helping broaden not only our relationship, now I have an even better relationship with the industry organization, but I'm getting that better audience. And again, our sales team now can utilize that same content and reshare it and grow it. And it's just kind of a self-fulfilling investment in that sense.
Jake, you're in business development too, so I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this. What's your advice on how you leverage LinkedIn to influence the bottom line?
Yeah, just to quickly go back to what Aaron said, because I just want to add on to him. Tagging is so important with engagement, right? You tag, let's say you're a subject matter expert who's just starting out on LinkedIn. You have 250 connections. You tag a company like CSIA, they have 3,500 followers. You go out there and you're doing a project with Fanuc or Kawasaki or ABB. Like ABB has 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. You get that engagement. That is what really reciprocates, and you get value back really quickly. And that's the whole entire idea. I think people lose on LinkedIn is a social platform. It's not a selling platform. Even though we like to try and sell and post videos about, hey, this is our newest product. This is what we're doing. We have this solution to offer. That's great. But remember, at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a social network, not a selling network. And if you can leverage it as a social network, you're going to be a lot more successful. So Lisa, to go back to your question really quickly. So it was, can you repeat that real quick? Roll within business development.
Yeah. So how you leverage LinkedIn to influence the bottom line.
Yeah, it's engagement. It's really going out there and engaging with your market. If you can go out there and you can say, hey, I want to work with company XYZ, I am going to start connecting, following, and engaging with those companies. So for example, I have Sales Navigator. I pay for that price, every month. But what I do is, if I'm going for a specific company, I'm going to follow that company. So anytime a high-level person posts within that company, I get a notification. I can then engage with that person and begin to do those soft touches, right? Because let's face it, in a world of where we were leaving the post-pandemic, we were in the middle of a pandemic, let's say, April, this time last year, everyone was hopping on webinars because it was the thing to do. Everyone was working from home. Everyone was responding to emails. They were wanting to do these, voice-to-voice video chats, and that died down. I think everyone saw that, over a 3 or 4 month period of time. So what can you do to have that virtual engagement without saying, hey, join my 1 hour webinar that I'm doing every week? that is that soft touch, that soft engagement. It's the fact that when that person sees from your company that you're wanting to work with, you're engaging and you're adding value to that conversation. That's where the business development is rolled, with helping that bottom line of getting that feedback, because that's going to get you into that door. I'm in a hard believer that there's no such thing as a cold call anymore. And if people are saying you're doing a cold call, that means they're not doing it right. And if you can do that sort of level of engagement, there's always that ability to have a handshake within that company. Even if it's not the direct person that you're wanting to get involved with, who could be the director of operations or a plant manager, you can engage with a person who's working on that floor, who can introduce you to say, hey, I'm following this guy on LinkedIn. He's got some great advice. He's creating some awesome content. He has some great discussions, really knowledgeable in this area as a subject matter expert. That's what focuses on getting in your bottom line. And it's a process that doesn't happen overnight too. Quickly to add on to that, don't think you're going to come in here and you're going to get results 2 weeks in or 3 weeks in or 4 weeks in. It can take months and months and months of consistent, small chunks of work. You don't need to be posting every single day, but if you can engage a few minutes every day on some comments that you want to get into, that's where you're going to get your return.
So as I was researching this topic, I came across a stat that said 60% of LinkedIn users are between the ages of 25 and 34. 60%. So how can these millennials be a key value to a company's growth and media presence? Jake, this is right up your alley. Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks. I think, it's a fantastic statistic out there where, I think there's a number of 60 or 70% of everyone of age groups between the ages of 18 and 34 on LinkedIn. So you can definitely see it's a very young platform. To go back to your question, I would say it's leveraging that young age group, correct? I think it's one of those things where we're all familiar with our phone. We're all familiar with video and social media platforms like TikTok and Reddit and other, engagements out there. I think going out there and using LinkedIn as a way to share content as well, that's something exciting, is very important for that young age group, because we consume a lot of content very quickly, and our, attention span on videos is very long. I always get a giggle when someone posts a 5-minute video on LinkedIn that people honestly expect they're going to stop and watch. That's not going to happen. LinkedIn is designed to be a, scrolling platform, just like Twitter, just like Facebook, same as LinkedIn. If you're using your mouse wheel to move through content, that means people will be moving through your content quickly. If you're posting a long video, the place to do it is YouTube, because YouTube's where you engage long content, right? You sit back, you click a button, that's the main portion of your screen. And that's the same thing when it comes to, not only millennials and younger people posting content, but engaging into it. If you can't get that person's attention within the first 5 seconds of your video or your post or your title or an interesting fact, you've already lost them and they're already on to the next post. So just that mindset of when you're wanting to do that engagement, that's what you need to focus on, saying social media within LinkedIn is a very quick, engaging content platform. And if you're not leveraging that way, there's a reason why you post even though it's the best video ever, that's 5 minutes long, your engagement is going to be a lot less than if you were to take 30 seconds of that video, snip it down and highlight that. Your engagement's going to be a lot more.
Okay, so Sandra, I need you to help me now here. Will you please put up that one slide? Because right now what I want to do is have the audience start networking with each other. So if you are willing to share your LinkedIn contact information in the chat, right now we can share that information with the rest of the audience, and you can all start connecting, offline after the webinar. You can start to do that like real time, and it's pretty easy to do. You just open up another tab in your browser, get over to LinkedIn, click your profile picture, click that contact info little link, and then copy the contact info from your LinkedIn profile, hop back on over here on Zoom and paste it into the chat. We'll give you a few seconds to do that. And then we're going to move on to Q&A. So Christine, I have somebody in the Q&A asking, our typical LinkedIn posts are eye-catching image, hopefully, with a short amount of text. Starting today, I'm not making sure the website is there. Any other suggestions for making our posts more effective?
Yeah, well, the eye-catching image is awesome. Make sure it has a link to your website. Using hashtags is also a good idea. And as Jake and I think Jeff mentioned, tagging people, tagging companies, tagging individuals to try to increase that exposure.
So Jeff, I have a question. Well, maybe this would be Jeff and Jake. How do you motivate your less tech-savvy coworkers to participate in social selling?
Stop having them.
Go ahead. Why don't you go first?
Stop having them try to sell. It's as simple as that. If your purpose is a person who's already not tech savvy and doesn't like it, their idea of social selling is to post a data sheet. It's not going to work. What you want to do is stop doing less social selling and maybe a little bit more social engagement. If there's a customer out there or a project they're doing, share that with them. Give them the ability to share a piece of content that's exciting, and maybe even queue it up for them. You know, I'll go back to Fine Zelstra. Our marketing team does a phenomenal job where they have posts queued up, ready for people to engage and post on their platform, or to like, or to share. So a person who's not necessarily tech savvy, give them a link and say, hey, like this. Can you share this on your platform? Can you comment on it? Give your feedback. So really quickly, stop pushing them to sell on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, once again, is a social platform. It's not a selling platform. And have them find ways to engage in that. If they like a specific company out there that they work with, say, hey, go over to this LinkedIn's page and look at all their recent posts and give that to them and say, hey, like it, comment on it, say, yeah, it was really fun to work with you on that project. Keep it super simple and have them do what is super common to a person, and that's engagement and conversation. And that's where you're going to get your best results.
Jeff, do you have anything to add there?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And to complement it by saying the sales will follow. Start with the engagement. Start with connecting with people. One of the small tips that I gave people is ask a question. Ask a question to them. Ask for feedback or ask a favor. A lot of times people want to participate in stuff if they don't see it as a selling activity. They see it as an engagement opportunity. Hey, I'm trying to get input from 10 people on blank. I got a quick question for you. That's a way of making a connection with them that doesn't really reference your company, your product, or what you do, but it gets them thinking of you around a particular topic or space.
So Aaron, I have one for you. How do you deal with linking to companies? I think they mean tagging companies when you have NDAs.
Well, and it's not just your NDAs. Make sure you're reviewing your MSAs as well, because those can have the master service agreements as well as the non-disclosure agreements. They can all have something to the effect of, hey, you cannot advertise our company name in any of your stuff. Others may say they have to give permission first. And honestly, I take advantage of that where we can, in the sense of, in most cases, if I'm going to tag a customer of ours, I will always ask them for their permission first. And then that gets them a little bit more engaged as well, too. Most OEMs or other partners out there, usually they're actually pretty happy to cross promote with you, because you're advertising their name to your audience and vice versa. So that's actually not a bad thing, but it's always worth the conversation. Reach out to someone, see if you can get their marketing contact. And you know, outside of that, if you're trying to do a project success or something, even if you can't disclose their name or location or things along those lines, you can still put some pretty powerful content together around, you know, in our case, our expertise around life sciences, food and beverage, oil and gas. I can still talk about those industries broadly and generally, and I can talk about a project without giving away the specifics and still get that powerful message across.
So Christine, I have another one for you. It's going to pick on you a little bit. Is there like a formula or a recipe or a ratio in terms of the kinds of content you're putting out? Like for every straight up promotional piece, you should have X number of educational or informational pieces. Like talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah, good question. So about the mix of the posts that you're putting up. Well, let's break it down. I think you said entertainment. So we'll start there. We rarely do entertainment, maybe once a year. Promotional, as we've been talking about the selling, we don't really do the straight out ask or promotional. Mostly what we're doing is sharing educational pieces, blogs, articles, case studies, videos, etc. This keeps the feed on brand. Once in a while, we might share a story from another page, but it would have to be a pretty close partner to do that. So pretty much educational is where we stay.
Jeff, talk to me a little bit about a logarithm, I hate that word because I can't say it very well, of LinkedIn in terms of the weight it puts on different kinds of engagement, like a like versus a share versus a comment. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. So the research that I've found shows that LinkedIn rewards comments first. And the reason I read somewhere, which makes total sense to me, is because it takes the most amount of effort to make a comment versus to do anything else. Then they reward shares and then likes. And if you think about it, if you like, everyone sees it. If you comment, everyone sees it. And if you share, everyone sees it. So if you think about it kind of in that order to go, all right, how can I get my employees, my partners, whoever to engage more and promote? Comment first, because trust me, their network will see it. So a lot of times people think sharing is the best, but commenting is the best.
So Jake, give us, what are some of the common mistakes you see people doing on LinkedIn? How are they doing it wrong?
Yeah, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, but I'll say it again. Creating content that's too long. You can create a blog post, and I would recommend blog posts are great to share on LinkedIn. That can link back to your website as well. But just, if you're out there and you're sharing a story or a case study or something that was successful that you guys did, keep it short. LinkedIn is a great platform to get you to come to your homepage or your landing page. Share a video that's 30 seconds long that is eye-catching, has got a fun title, a fun statistic about what you're doing in the industry, or a statistic about what's currently happening. And if people enjoy that, they're going to like it, they're going to comment on it, and that will lead to more discussion. I think if a person's out there and they're watching a piece of content that they like, those 4 or 5 minutes long, and it finally ends, they're saying, well, that was great, I'm going to go on the next one. That really didn't give them time to engage or like on it to move forward. If you keep the product or what you're doing short enough to where it gives them the opportunity then to like it and comment or share before they lose interest in that post to go on to the next one, that's where you're going to win. So keep in mind, once again, if you're on a company page, post it in a way that's industry related, not necessarily company related, because your industry is a lot bigger than your company. And that's where you're going to get a lot more engagement from. Another thing I don't see enough people doing and companies doing is hashtags and company tagging. If you're a control systems integrator and you're working with a PLC manufacturer or a robot manufacturer or a SCADA software program and you just finished a project, why are you not copying and tagging them in the post? Why are you not reaching out to them to co-brand that post? If you're not, you're losing so much potential of your audience. You have X amount of followers on your company page or your personal page, but if you tag 3 people who are directly related to that post and they engage on it, that just amplifies the reach. Now, what I'm saying don't do is don't go out there like some people that do, and they tag 90 people in the comment section and say, engage like this post, because honestly, for me, I unfollow those people because it's spam in my book. It's no different than, people reaching your email folder and spamming it. So find authentic ways to create engagement and conversation by tagging and copying those companies that you worked with as a partner. You're partnering with them in the real world. Why would you not be partnering with them on social media? So those are some advices that I would give.
I'm going to pop in here too, because I have a pet peeve, and that's when people post something and they get comments and they don't respond to the comments. That makes me so frustrated.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're just missing out such an easy little opportunity there. So I have one last question, and this one's going to be for Aaron. If you had any recommendations of companies or profiles that you recommend, that you follow, that just they're really doing a good job, other than the people on the panel, of course, you got some good examples right here, but are there any other accounts that you would recommend people take a look at to see how it's done well?
Regardless, I know this is open to others, whether you're a systems integration firm, an engineering company, whatever you may be doing as your business, I really like to go after some of the big names, right? Think about the companies that have the biggest marketing budget because they actually are investing in these platforms. So, myself, I follow some of the key things that are important to us. Some of the OEMs like Rockwell Automation, Phoenix Contact, Bedrock Automation, they put some good content out there as well too. A lot of times you're talking about their products, but sometimes what you'll see as well too, and I see this actually ironically more out of oil and gas companies in particular, where they're actually talking about their social events, right? Jake, I think you were talking about in particular, one of the best, most engaged posts and everything was social causes that you were working on, right? And being a part of. People like to see that as long as you're keeping it within that business context on LinkedIn, right? But what you're engaged in, how you're making an impact, those bigger companies do a very good job about it. And I guess one thing I'll throw out there too, I do believe in regular posting of content. Yes, it can be a full-time job, and really that's hard to do if that's not your full-time job. But 3 or more posts a week is a big deal because you don't know when your audience is actually going to log in, right? Some people may only log in once a week. So yes, you've posted 5 times, but they'll only see the one that got the most, right? And you want to make sure when somebody does get on, you're capturing their attention because you have a lot of people you're competing with for their attention in that scroll. To Jake's point, not only do you have less than 3 seconds to catch their attention as they're rapid scrolling, but they're only going to scroll for maybe 5 minutes. So are you in the top 20 posts? You gotta be if you want to actually have an effective campaign. And that's where some of these bigger companies, they're posting on a regular basis to compete for the top of your feed, right?
So we're coming up on the top of the hour. I'm going to give it one last call out if the panelists want to pipe up with some information or advice. Otherwise, I'm going to call it, guys. And thanks so much for the attendees and also for our panelists today. Sandra, I think you're going to bring us on home now. So thanks, guys.
On behalf of CSIA, I would like to thank Jake, Aaron, Christine, Jeff, and Lisa for this informative discussion. And finally, thank you all. Thanks to all of you who attended this event today. We hope you find this virtual event informational and very information that you can use. We also like to remind you that the recording will be available and the chat for viewing within the next couple of days. Please visit the CSIA website to view this recording or past virtual events that you may have missed. Finally, be sure to bookmark the CSIA event calendar so you don't miss any upcoming events. This concludes our program for today. Once again, thank you for joining us and have a great day.